Hey yo everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing my comic load for this week. Now, usually I do this on Wednesday. However, from now on, I'm probably going to be doing this on Thursday or Friday. The reason being is because I have a second job at my comic book store, ironically enough, and I work there usually until 5 o'clock, and then I have karate 6 to 7, and then I'm with the missus later on in the night. So I really don't get a chance to read my comics or even be able to do a review. I read most of them this morning. So, from now on, I'm just going to have my reviews of my comic load either be on Thursday or Friday. So with that said, let's actually get into this week. This is what I like to dub the Batman week. Even though Batman is no longer in it, Batman's now a week 2 comic. 5 of the titles are still Batman. Almost half of the titles. There's 11 issues here. 5 of them are Batman, so yeah, almost half. So let's just jump into it. Let's move that out of the way so I can put the comics down here. And let's start things off with a little Justice League, issue number 9. This is the start to a new story arc, the Villain's Journey or the Villain's Quest, one of the two. I think it's a Villain's Journey. And the basics of this issue is that we have the Justice League separated into two teams. You have Batman, Superman, and Cyborg investigating the key in Arkham, while Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Flash dealing with the Weapon Master. Both the key and the weapon master are being manipulated by some unseen force, possibly the evil of this story arc. Surprisingly, Aquaman isn't in this issue at all. Why? I don't know. And while we get this issue, we get some flashbacks for each Justice League member. What these flashbacks mean, we don't know yet, if they mean anything at all. And at the very end, we get a cliffhanger with what's happening with Steve and Trevor. We also get the Billy Batson Shazam back up in this, which was a lot better than the previous 2 weeks. I'm starting to like Bad Boy Billy a bit, and we get to see Billy show that, he may be a troubled kid, but he's not a bad kid. He has some good inside him. And we get to see a little bit more character development in this with Billy Batson and his adopted foster family. Good. The art is Jim Lee is great, and Gary Frank, who also does the Billy Batson story. The art is great. The story is the first issue to a story arc, and this is what I say a lot about Jeff Johns. His stories usually read better in trades because they're long stories. So this first issue may not be as strong alone, but when you read it together with all the other issues, it'll come off a lot better. I like the teams kind of working together, although they're on separate teams. I still like them working together. I thought the matchups were pretty good. There was one particular scene where Batman calls how Batman and Superman work together in this is, Batman calls him up and tells him, the key's out. What are you doing on your lunch break? And all you see is this picture of Batman's punching and Superman's using his heat vision on the bad guys. I'm like, damn, I want a Superman Batman comic. I need a Superman Batman comic because it's great to see these two interacting with each other. And then Cyborg sprinkled on there is even better. And I like the Green Lantern, Flash, and Wonder Woman working together. So I thought that balanced out pretty good, and the pacing wasn't bad either. Bad. Like I said, this is the first issue to the story arc, and as with all of Jeff Johns' first issues to story arcs, they're weaker alone than they are together. It's very much like the first issue of Justice League. It wasn't a strong issue on its own, but looking back on that whole entire series, those first 5, 6 issues, it was good for the story. So it's going to be weak on its own, and in addition to that, no Aquaman kind of ticked me off a bit. Uh, oh, and I forgot to say the Billy Batson stuff. Everything was good about that. There was really no bad at all, other than the fact we haven't got him as Shazam yet. It's been good, and I really want a Shazam comic. I would read the hell out of that comic. Uh, whether or not you should get it, I will give it a without the Billy Batson story, probably 3 out of 5. However, with the Billy Batson story, 3.75 out of 5. Because really the Shazam story is what stands out to me in this, although the Justice League story was interesting and fun, so there you go. Moving on to Wonder Woman, issue number 9. Last we left off, Wonder Woman went to hell to deal with Hades to get Zola back, and she succeeded. However, the price was bit too high. Wonder Woman is now trapped in hell. I'm not sure if she's actually considered dead or not. I think she's just kind of there. But she's trapped in hell now, and Hades wants to make her his bride. Wonder Woman's going along with it. We get a feeling that she's kind of trying to play Hades, but Hades isn't stupid. And we get to see how everyone is reacting to this and what they're going to do to get Wonder Woman out. So let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. The art is different on this. We no longer have Cliff Chang on here. We have Tony Atkins, and he does a pretty good job at marrying Cliff Chang. And the art, the transition is pretty good. I think with only Strife, you notice the difference. I believe he did the previous issue too. I could be wrong, but the art is great in this. The pacing is so good for a Wonder Woman story. This long epic tale. And I really did like the character interactions on how they were trying to get Wonder Woman out. Um, I also like the interpretations of some of the gods. For example, uh, Aphrodite shows up, and in this, you don't see any of her face at all. Aphrodite's is just kind of there. She's always her face is always covered up, her breast and her groin area are always covered up, which it should be because this would not be a rated T for teen. But I like how they left a lot of mystery to Aphrodite's because she's so beautiful. People probably couldn't comprehend it. Um, but yeah, bad is that I don't like that there wasn't that much Wonder Woman in this. She shows up in it, but she's just kind of there. So I don't like how she wasn't kind of as present as other things, but it kind of works out for the story because we get to see a lot more development with the characters. And I'm really digging from Lennox to Zola to Hermes to everyone. I'm digging the secondary characters here, the supporting cast here. On a whole, I'll give this a 4 out of 5. This was a good issue, not as quite as good as the previous issue, but still fun, still enjoyable, and I'm really interested to see where it goes from here. Brian Esmeralda, you have been knocking it out of the ballpark with Wonder Woman. Okay, next, last in the DC Justice League category is DC Universe Presents Savage, issue number 9, uh, done by James Robinson. Now, with the DC Universe Presents, I honestly believe that the DC Universe Presents is one of the best concepts that DC has for the New 52 because it's something that you can read a story and then jump off or jump on or jump off at any point. For example, I did not read the first 5 issues that dealt with Deadman. Not because I don't like Deadman, I just wasn't overly interested. And money also. But I jumped on with Challenges of the Unknown, and I'm sticking with Savage. Which of course deals with Vandal Savage. So there's a lot of things that are selling me for this. And again, it's a testament to how good DC Universe Presents is because it's a great jump on or jump off point for anyone. But yeah, the two selling points for this for me are Vandal Savage and James Robinson's writing because I really do dig James Robinson. And this is the first time we also get to see Vandal Savage in the present day because we've seen him in the past with Demon Knights, but we have not seen him in the present day. Basically, Vandal Savage has been in prison in Belle Reese for about 16 years because he did a bunch of murders. And right now there's a copycat murderer going around. Vandal Savage has a daughter who has shown up who's 26 years old, and you know she's 26 because she was 10 when Vandal Savage went to prison, and that was 16 years ago. She now works for the FBI, so she talks to her father about these copycat murderers, and you get a lot of back and forth between the two of them about exactly what's going on and their relationship, and a lot of character-driven stuff in this issue. And at the end of it, Vandal Savage makes a deal or a proposition to his daughter that she can't refuse. She has to kind of take. Uh, so on to the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good, Vandal Savage is handled very well in here. I particularly like the concept that the murders that he did in the past, he thinks is socially acceptable because for him they're sacrifices. He's been around from the dawn of time, so he thinks this stuff is natural. It's good. It's okay, but it's not. It's murder. But I like how he's handled as a sophisticated, smart individual, but still has kind of a certain charm to him. He doesn't come off as evil. I don't think Vandal Savage is evil. Is he bad? That's debatable. He's definitely chaotic. There's no doubt about that. But I like the handle of Vandal Savage. The dialogue and the back and forth between Vandal Savage and his daughter is beautiful, and it really is the driving force of this comic, which shows how well paced this comic is because of the dialogue. You know, most 90% of the comic is just the two of them standing there talking to each other, but it's so engaging, it's so well paced, and one of the caveats to James Robinson is that he does a lot of heavy dialogue, but it works out very well in all of his writings, and you kind of get to see it in Vandal Savage. Bad, none. This comic was chilling. It was good. It was well done. Great character stuff. Whether you're a fan of Vandal Savage or not, I think anyone would enjoy this. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really good, and I'm interested to see where the other issues go. And the great thing about that is there was a lot of information packed into it. Let's see if we can get through these quickly because I'm kind of talking a lot here, rambling. Next we have Supergirl. We're continuing the Silver Banshee story arc. We get a bit more backstory in Silver Banshee, her father, her mother, and her brother. She is not a bad guy, and I like that. Her father, the Black Banshee, I believe he's calling him, is the bad guy. But we get to see a lot of character development here. It's good fighting too, and we get to see Kara actually make a friend with Silver Banshee. You know, there's a point where Silver Banshee says, you know, you better run away. It's not good being around me. She said, you have been there for me and I will be there for you. We also get to see some of Kara's new powers, the ability to expend and to absorb energy differently than Superman. She can kind of turn herself into a bomb in a way. So we get to see a bit more of her powers. Good. The dialogue was good. There was a few good character moments in this. And there was I think the backstory for Silver Banshee is just very well done. Bad. I don't think there's anything necessarily bad with this at all. I think it's just an overall a good story. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoying Supergirl. And I thought this story arc. I think the story arc is very good. I'm interested to see where it goes from here, especially with the cliffhanger at the end. Moving on to a little Young Justice with Blue Beetle. Basically, Blue Beetle came to New York. Why? Because he wants to find a superhero to help him out. And lo and behold, Green Lantern shows up, Kyle Rayner, along with Bleez and Globulus. If that's how you pronounce his name correctly. So, anyways, Blue Beetle helps out Green Lantern, and they kind of have a discussion back and forth. I don't want to reveal too much of this issue because there is a bit that is revealed in this. Um, but yeah, let's just get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Because again, I don't want to reveal too much. I thought the interactions between Blue Beetle and Green Lantern were very well done. I thought it tied in nicely to New Guardians, and the fact that you don't need to read New Guardians to understand this or enjoy it, but it does help out. I'm actually thinking about picking up New Guardians again on the side. Not sure. Um, so it's a good crossover in that sense. And they continue the Brenda stuff. If you remember Brenda, the friend of Jaime, continue the stuff with her, which is good because it's like we haven't forgot about her. Bad. I can't really say there's any bad at all. I'll say this is a solid issue. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. It didn't really overwhelmingly impress me, but it was good. It was fun, and I think it was a decent crossover. I say good and fun a lot. On to another James Robinson story. We are going to be doing this Shade, issue number 9 of 12. Not 9, 8 of 12. So we have about 4 issues left. This issue deals with the Shade back in the early 1900s, I believe. Maybe a little bit earlier, and it deals with him helping out his grandson who has to deal with the demon. And this demon that James Robinson writes in here is very, very scary. Very, very, very scary. And it's a lot of dialogue, as with the Vandal Savage one. Although I think the Vandal Savage's dialogue was a little bit better. This still had a good amount of dialogue back and forth, and a lot of internal dialogue with the Shade. And yeah, so let's just jump into the really what happens is Shade needs to help out his grandson take out this demon. So good. I thought the demon was very nicely done, very scary, very demonic, very evil. The end fight scene was perfect for the Shade. The internal dialogue was good, and I thought the connection between Shade, his grandson, and Shade's former wife was nice also. Bad. I think the dial. I don't know if I think the beginning dialogue with the Shade was a little off-putting. Not, it's not really off-putting. I don't know what to say about it. I don't think the dialogue in the beginning was as good as in the middle and the end, but it was still okay. The other thing is this doesn't really connect at all with anything else that's been going on with the overarchingness of the Shade. I think James Robinson is just doing this to tell a story, which is fine. But yeah, on a whole, other than the fact that I wasn't digging the very, very, very beginning with Shade, this is still 4 out of 5. It's good stuff. Shade has been a great miniseries. Definitely pick it up. It's almost as though, James Robinson can naturally write the Shade, like it just comes out of his hand. Guys want some Batman? Let's do a little bit Batman. Let's go into the Night of the Owls. 4 out of 5 Batman titles are tied into the Night of the Owls this week. Surprisingly, Batwoman's the only one that's not tied in, but I believe the creators said that they would love to, but they have a story that they want to tell, which I respect that. So let's go into Nightwing. Nightwing in Nightwing's Core of the Owl, we pick up where we did last time, where he's fighting William Cobb, who is his ancestor. And William Cobb is considered the best of the owls. And we get to see a lot more of William Cobb's backstory because we saw it in the previous issue, and we get to see it come full circle here, which is good. And then we get to see the fight scene between the two of them. Onto the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good, William Cobb's backstory was well paced and well done between the previous two issues. It gives kind of a sense of this villain and a dynamic between him and Dick Grayson, seeing how different they are, but at the same time how alike they are because their backstories are very similar, just they took a different turn at certain sections. The resolve was very nicely done. It really exemplifies who Dick Grayson is and how Dick Grayson does what he does. And I thought the art was good, of course. The art was very nice. And I think out of the Night of the Owls, Dick Grayson's tie-in was handled a little bit better than other people's because it actually feels like it's part of the Night of the Owls a little bit more. Not to say that the other ones aren't, but I think Nightwing's just ties in a little bit better. Bad, although the resolve for the fight was fun and interesting and good for Nightwing, the fight the pacing of the fight felt a little weird because it's very high octane, very intense in the very going, and then towards the latter half, it kind of slows down quite a bit. But besides that, I think Nightwing was a good issue. I will give it a 4 out of 5, and I really did enjoy his crossover into the Night of Owls because I think it was handled very well. I'm interested to see what happens with Nightwing after this because Kyle Higgins says he has a lot planned. Another Night of the Owls crossover, we have Catwoman issue number 9. Catwoman and Spark, who is now her new friend, for lack of a bad term, are kind of watching over Cobblepot, watching over the Penguin, wanting to steal from him. However, one of the owls shows up and attacks the Penguin, one of the Talons. Now, the unique thing about the Talon is that he's actually, in comparison to William Cobb, he's actually considered the weakest of the owls because he has a sense of honor. He doesn't like to kill people when they're on the run. He doesn't like to go out and kill unarmed people. He has a sense of duty and a sense of honor. And that also stems to the fact that something was stolen from him a long time ago, a dagger, which he has not retrieved and he wants to retrieve for the Court of Owls, which surprisingly the Penguin has. So we have this unique Talon who has a sense of honor, and also has a unique backstory that connects to Catwoman. Not connects, but kind of how should I say? Connects is the wrong word. Is mirrored. They kind of have a similar backstory in a way that they're both from broken families and they're both trying to please their families in a way. In a way, you'll see. Read it makes sense. Onto the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good is this is the best Talon out of all the Talons because he's a tragic Talon. I like the fact that these Talons, although they're dead and they're just kind of expendable soldiers, they still kind of have personality and backstory, and I like that. You get a sense of who they are, where they come from, and what they did before they joined the court. So I thought the owlness, the talent in this was the best. The art was good, the fight scene was good, and the resolve was good. Bad, it felt very unnatural for a crossover. It just kind of happened. In addition to that, I thought Spark was mishandled a little. Uh, he kind of gets beat up a lot, Spark. So I don't think he would be beat up as much as he did in this. Besides that, I will also give this a 4 out of 5 because it was enjoyable. I really did like the backstory for the for the Talon in this. I think that was the driving force. On to Red Hood and the Outlaws. Again, another crossover with the Night of the Owls. Red Hood returns with Starfire and Arsenal. He has so many names. Speedy, Red Arrow, Arsenal. Returns with Arsenal to Gotham, and they need to protect Victor Freeze. And this is really the first appearance we have of Mr. Freeze in the new DCU. Because apparently Mr. Freeze unwillingly, or he knew, but he didn't know to what extent he was actually working for the Court of Owls. They were giving him money so he can do his research, but he gave them a little something on the side. And that little something is the ability to bring people back to life, regenerating them, that stuff. Um, so yeah, we get to see Jason Todd go up against this um, Talon, and this Talon doesn't want to live. And it's an interesting comparison because this Talon died and came back to life. And the same thing, Jason Todd died and came back to life. So while they fight each other, they have a strong sense and identify with each other, and it kind of it comes full circle at the end with what the Talon wants from Jason Todd. And we get to see some pretty good Starfire and Arso moments in this. The only bad I could say with this issue was how Mr. Freeze looked. I think he was written pretty well, but when I think of Mr. Freeze, I think of his armor kind of like from Arkham City or from the animated series or from, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of BioShock. It's almost like big clunky armor, clockworkish. And this, it's like a skin tight suit with like a freeze gun and a mohawk. What I did like is his lips were bleeding, which were interesting because, he's always kind of cold, and his mouth probably moves a lot, so it probably cracks and bleed a lot. On a whole, 3 out of 5. It was a decent issue, but not the strongest of the crossovers. It was a good crossover, but not one of the strongest. I think the character moments for Jason, Starfire, and Red Arrow in there were more fun than anything. And the interaction with Barbara Gordon and Batgirl at the end was fun. We're almost at the end. Night of the Owls crossover with Birds of Prey, issue number 9. The art changes in this, and it starts off on an interesting note. We start off halfway through the story. Sure, let's do that. Katana and Black Canary are running from this Talon. Apparently, Poison Ivy was taken out. Eventually, Starling and Batgirl show up, but this is a very relentless Talon. There isn't too much story in this in ways of comparison between Talons and the people that they're fighting, or even backstory with the Talon. Although, I mean, it does give a backstory, but not as strong as the other ones. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. It was good. It had good action, but I don't. The story did suffer because there really wasn't much of a story there. There was some good moments in there, but really not enough to warrant anything higher than a 3. Birds of Prey is still a fun comic, and I want to continue the story with the murder of with Black Canary's husband, but we had to take a break for the Night of the Owls. But it was an okay issue. It's an okay issue. And finally, wrapping it up for Batman and for this week is Batwoman issue number 9. Uh, so know how throughout the previous issues we've been going like Kate's story, Betty's story, Chase's story, Maggie's story, so on and so forth. It's starting to come full fruition, and we're starting to find out how Batwoman's got to the position that she's in, doing what she's doing, fighting the enemy she's fighting. The way they kind of pulled the memento in this. If anyone's watched the movie Memento, it starts at the end and goes to the beginning. It's kind of like what they did in this. They start at the end and then they slowly went to the beginning, which is an interesting way of doing the story, but I think it will work better in trade than in individual issues. And looking back on it now, I think I should have been a little bit more generous in both my ratings with Batwoman because the overall story is good. I think it was just how it was presented in individual issues was a little rough. Basically, Batwoman and I forget the name, but generic supervillain Archer, superhero Archer, number 12, go up against Falchion. Falchion is actually a name of sword, which is oddly what he uses. But anyways, they go up against Falchion. Interesting conclusion, and it has a very startling, ballsy conclusion to how the fight ends. In addition to that, there's a cliffhanger with what happens between mysterious supervillain, generic superhero Archer number 12, and Batwoman. I didn't get to learn the person's name, but I think it's that samurai dude's sister, because they both have the same tattoos on their eyes. Um, on a whole, whether or not you should get it, yeah, I'll give this a 3.5 out of 5. It was a decent issue, it was a fun issue, and I think it ties the other issues together very well. There's still more in this story arc, and Batwoman is getting a little bit better. The covers are really good. The cover last month was good, and the cover this month is really great. Uh, I'm starting to get a sense more of what this comic is, and the more I get a sense of it, the better it's becoming. So yeah, Batwoman issue number 9. So those are the comics for this week. Which one was my favorite? Well, you'll just have to see when I do my Andrew Cutter picks of the weeks. I am going to have some news and updates, some interesting news pertaining to DC Comics that one of you guys told me, so I will talk about that in the next video. But until then, I'm going to end this review here. This is Andrew saying peace out.